Hi, welcome to Rock and Metal Invasion. My name is Steve. Coming up on the show today, I'm doing more one and done hair metal albums. So last week I did my top 10 one and done hair metal albums. Had a really great response. So I thought, well, I already had this show planned anyway, but let's do it the following week. So these are basically albums by hair metal bands that only put out the one album. So when I talk about hair metal, of course, as I said last week, I classify it as bands who were around from about 84 to around 1992. They had that hard rock sound, some metal influences as well, and had I guess some mainstream appeal, or had the potential, I guess, to get some radio airplay. Often they'd have one ballad on their album. They had an image, and it was a really popular sound in around about that sort of period, 84 to 92. Now, there were bands who came afterwards who had that sound, and there were definitely bands who came before who influenced that sound. But I'm looking at around about that sort of time period. So I'm looking at bands, of course, or artists that release just the one album. And I talked last week that there were some, that were very close to qualifying, but then they might have, released an album much, years later on, or had released an EP. So if you release an EP or you released, an album, even later on after that period of time, then not one and done, right? So I did get some great suggestions, and that also helped me do this week's show with some of the great suggestions that people had put in the comments. So I'm going to be showing some of those, but also some that were suggested didn't quite qualify because of my sort of qualifying standards. And I'm thinking I might actually do another sort of follow-up show where it's calling it something like nearly one and done hair metal albums. So or by hair metal bands. So that might be coming up next time. But for today, this is, and in no particular order. This is not like last week was more of my top 10. This is more just more one and done albums in no particular order. So, and I could probably even do a few more episodes of this. There's probably quite a few, of course. But those, again, surprisingly, a lot of these bands, these hair metal bands that came out in that time, would often put out more than one album. But there's a few that only put out the one. So I'm going to show you what I've got, and of course, it has to be in my collection as well. So what I've got in my collection that is what I consider a hair metal band that put out just the one album. So first up, this is actually a CD. I've got a few CDs I'm going to show today because unfortunately a lot of these bands, they're hair metal band, but they just put out the one album, and they came out, often the bands that don't have a vinyl is the bands that came out in the sort of early 90s. So this is one of them. This is 1992 and a band called If Only. So it's a UK band, female fronted, and the album is called No Bed of Roses. Really good. Definitely probably should have been an honorable mention last week. I really like this album. Now, what's interesting too is that initially they had Jackie Bottomede, who'd been in Girls' School, did one album for Girls' School. They did, and they did about 4 songs with her, but this album only has their new vocalist, Tina Egan. So Tina Egan does all the vocals on this album. But if you get the reissue, I think Rock Candy put out a reissue of this album, and it's got all these songs, plus it's got the 4 songs that Jackie Bottomede did as well. Produced by Jeff Downs from Asia, and good production. Again, it's that whole problem of coming out in 1992, too late, really. But it's really good, really, really worth checking out. People that know, and have this album now. Yeah, no vinyl. For some reason, they did release, and I don't know if it's an unofficial release, but you can get like a picture disc, which has I think 5 or 6 songs from the album on it, but no full length. It would be great if this got reissued on vinyl. But like I said, Rock Candy have reissued it. That's always a great sound on the Rock Candy ones. Right, next one. Well, this is an interesting one. It's another female fronted. So this is a band called Blonde on Blonde and Labyrinth of Love. So this is interesting. A Norwegian band. They've actually got 2 female vocalists. So Benti and Chris. And it's really good. I have talked about this band before on my channel, talking about lesser known female fronted bands, but Yeah, really good, but it is one and done. But what's interesting is, so the band was called Blonde on Blonde, and then like a couple years later, this comes out by a band called Perfect Crime, and the album is called Blonde on Blonde. And what's interesting is that again, it's another one and done because there's Perfect Crime didn't do another album, but the lead vocalist is Bente from Blonde on Blonde. So it's one of those weird situations where the band was previously called Blonde on Blonde, then they almost changed their name because there's similar. There's people from Blonde on Blonde are now in Perfect Crime, and then they call their album Blonde on Blonde. And it's pretty similar. Again, it's just the one female vocalist now though, but very similar sound, and it's really good as well. So very similar to the Blonde on Blonde album. So there we go. Another one and done. Next one here, I'll do a few CDs first. So this was one that was suggested in the comments last week, and I thought, yeah, it's a pretty good suggestion. This is Bad for Good, and I don't think you can get this on vinyl, but it's produced by Steve Vai, and these guys or kids really, they're really young when they put this out, early teens, I think. Yeah, it's I never really loved it, but it's got some good songs. I mean, I guess what's interesting too about this album is the drummer Brooks Wackerman. He's actually gone on to be he's played with lots of bands, but he's now the drummer for Avenged Sevenfold. So yeah, he carried on and did quite a bit. But yeah, so there we go. Someone did mention that, and I thought, well, I'll definitely show that for today's episode. Another one. I don't think this one got mentioned, and I probably should have mentioned it myself because it's a pretty solid album. This is a band called Blondes. So not the greatest name for a band. Again, typical sort of hair metal, with the Z in their name. Here's the band at the back. But it's produced by Phil Earhart and Steve Walsh from Kansas. Doesn't really sound like Kansas at all. You've also got Brendan O'Brien, who becomes quite a big producer. He's engineering it. And the first two songs are really my go-to songs: Miracles, and Hands of Love. They're really good. Actually, the song Hands of Love is written by Joe Lynn Turner and also Tony Bruno from Danger Danger and other bands. A really good song. That's Hands of Love, and I think Ted Poley covered that song on one of his solo albums, a few years ago. Really good. But Miracles is good. I think that for some reason there's only one music video, and the song that they chose is Last Call for Alcohol, which was just like I don't know. I wouldn't. It's the last song of the album, and music video. I don't know if that would have been the one I would have issued as a single, and it was a music video. Like I said, Miracles or Hands of Love would have been, I think, a better choice. Now the singer is interesting too because Nathan, he's actually now I don't know if the band's still active, but he's actually now the vocalist for Resist and Bite, which was a band that Tommy Skirch from Tesla had sort of formed or started. And yeah, so Nathan was vocalist for that band. Unfortunately, Tommy's now left that band and is he's joined Bad Marriage. So I'm not really sure if that band is still a going thing, but it was good to see him sort of making a big comeback because to my knowledge, he'd done very little since Blondes. But yeah, one and done. They did actually, too, if you look on YouTube, they did reform about 5 or 6 years ago and do a concert. But there we go. So I think they're Atlanta band, but yeah. And also, too, there's a reissue of this album on CD where it's got a bonus track that is not on the vinyl, and it's a really good song. It's called Bright Lights, Big City. Pretty good song. I don't know why I didn't make the album. Maybe it's just, I don't know, but it sounds a bit Def Leppardish. But one of the better songs, it would have been one of the better songs on the album. So that's worth checking out as well. So yeah, Blondes, definitely a one and done album, hair metal band, a good one to mention. This also, I think, got mentioned in the comments, and it is an album I like. This is Kathmandu, and some would say even, I don't know if you'd call this hair metal, right? Because this is, lyrically, there's some quite mature lyrics here, but you can see on the back cover that they've kind of got the look there. I don't think there's any issues with that. This, of course, Dave King, he's the vocalist. He's come from Fast Way. But yeah, God Part 2 is actually a cover of a U2 song. My go-to song on this one is Medicine Man. That's really good. I really like that song. You've also got Mandy Mayer. He's on guitars. He was in Asia, a really cool band called Cobra, and also Crocus. So he's been in a few bands. Of course, Dave King, it's in there. Like I said, wasn't Fast Way, but then he goes on to form a band called Flogging Molly, who I think are still going pretty strong. Quite a popular band, more sort of a punk band, really. But yeah, one and done. Kathmandu from 1990. Next one. This is another band. You could almost call it like a bit of a super group, really, because this is Dirty White Boy and Bad Reputation. So the reason I'm calling it a bit of a super group, if you got David Glenn Isley from Jafria on vocals, you've got Earl Slick on guitar, David Bowie, and he also played for Little Caesar, and Kenny Richards as well on drums. He's from Autograph. So yeah, and produced by Bo Hill. So you think there's a lot here that would have meant this would have been successful, but it didn't quite happen. But to be honest with you, not an album I love. It just, yeah, I don't know. It definitely I think it fits the hair metal category, but it's just okay. It's okay. But there we go. From 1990, that was Dirty White Boy and Bad Reputation. And yeah, no one mentioned it, I don't think, in the comments last week as one that I missed. So I don't know. But one that was mentioned, my good friend Dan from Off the Charts mentioned this one, Bo Nasty. I think he likes this album. Personally, for me, that's, again, that's why my honorable mentions when I was doing the show last week, it was really just about my top 10, my 10 I really like. Again, not that I don't like some of these, but they just didn't make the top 10. Or again, the ones I did honorable mentions for. But I do like the song Gemini on here. And again, I think this is another Bo Hill production. Well, actually, he's executive producer. So it's Paul Winger. I think that might be Kit Winger's brother. He's the producer on this one. But I think the video here might be Shake It, the music video. I think they might have done Shake It. It's okay, that song. But yeah, like I said, Gemini is my favorite song. Mike Tirana, I think that's how you say his name. He's probably the most well-known guy from this band. He goes on to, be a drummer for quite a few bands. He's still drumming for quite a few bands as well. If you look at his discography, yeah, he's been pretty busy. So I'm not sure about the rest of the guys. Probably not too much else happening. But yeah, one and done band. Look at the album art. The album cover. Not probably a great choice. At the back, totally hair metal look. But yeah, there we go. That's Bo Nasty. Next one I'm going to talk about a couple of female-fronted ones. I've shown these albums before, but they are one and done, and definitely worth talking about. Harlow. Yeah, I've mentioned this album and showed this band quite a bit. But yeah, just the one album. Les Australia, I think it is, on vocals is her name. But of course, this band most well known for having Tommy Thayer as guitarist. I don't think he does any of the songwriting, but he's in the band, and there's some good songs on here. I think in the end I went with Witness as my sort of, my favorite sort of one and done hair metal female fronted album. But this was definitely in the running, and one that was suggested and actually I'd sort of forgotten about, and it's pretty close, to be honest with you, whether it would have been, I would have overtaken Witness as my favorite hair metal female fronted album, because I really do love this album. This is Laos. And We Want It. So yeah, it's one and done. It's the name of the band is named after the lead vocalist. I think her name is Gundren Laos. But a German band, I think, and really good. It's quite heavy at times, but still melodic. Good crunchy guitars. Which again, I think there's at least one music video you can see online. But a couple of people have mentioned it, and totally worth mentioning. It's really good stuff. So if you haven't heard this and you like this type of music, check Laos out and We Want It. Another one that was mentioned, and this one, I like a couple of songs on it, but I'm not a huge fan. But this is Rockhead. So this is, of course, Bob Rock's band and his album that he it is one and done, definitely. I mean, Bob Rock's been, I guess, very busy producing bands, but he manages to find a little bit of time to put this album out. But it's 1992, it's on EMI, and yeah, I guess with the sort of, the popularity that he was having at the time with bands like Metallica and Motley Crue, the success he was having, you might have thought this, he might have been able to, have some success here, but it doesn't sound like, well, it definitely doesn't sound like Metallica. It doesn't really sound like Motley Crue either. My favorite song is Heartland. I think that's a really good song. I think Chelsea Rose was the single, or one of the main singles off it. I think there's a music video for that. But yeah, House of Cards also the last song on the album. It's not too bad. But yeah, it's okay. I think it's okay. But yeah, some people really like it. So mentioning that one, another album I've showed a lot actually. But I'm going to show it again because it fits the category. 9.0, Too Far Gone. Yeah, like I said, I've showed this quite recently, just like I showed the Harlow album quite recently. But yeah, it's one done, and I really like it. But like I've said before, Craig Small, the guitarist, he's not done anything else, but I think, sounds really good on this album. Ray Luzier, he's now the drummer in Korn. So there's some interesting bands that these band members have been in, either before or after. The vocalist Pete Marino, he was in Le Mans. But yeah, this is good. This came out on Shrapnel, actually my copy says Roadrunner. So yeah, but I think around 1990, yeah. Shrapnel Records here, Roadrunner / Shrapnel, 1990, and worth checking out. Yep. All right, now another one people mentioned, and I think I might have forgotten it. So thank you for mentioning it. I'll mention it now. Whether it had made my top 10, I don't know. It would have been in the upper region of the top 10, but I do really like this album, and it's an album that I think I'm liking more and more over time. I sometimes sort of forget about it or don't play it, and then I play it, and I'm like, actually, this is a really good album. And it's an interesting band because there's some history here with the members of the band and where the band come from. So I'll show it. This is War Babies. So yeah, 1992 release. Brad Sinsel is the vocalist. Now, he's been in the band TKO, also in Suicide Squad. They put out like a 4-track EP prior to this coming out. The band wasn't formed by him. I think it was formed by a couple of other guys, and that they were sort of the guitarist, whoever it was that formed the band, was doing the singing, but he really wanted to get Brad Sinsel to join the band. He got Brad, and they got a record deal. And there's a couple of music videos, and if you check out the music videos, they look a little bit like the kind of type of music videos that the bands like Alice in Chains were putting out at the time. It's kind of dark, kind of moody, and their sound, it's not Alice in Chains, but it's not that far removed. And of course, this band is from Seattle, and they toured with Alice in Chains. They've done, they did concerts with them. So they just couldn't quite get into that. They couldn't quite meet that grunge category. In fact, there's even an interview with them on YouTube, where they're being interviewed, and I think Ricky Reckerman, whatever you say his name is, he's interviewing them, and he's saying, so you guys don't quite really fit into that grunge scene that's happening at the moment. And they were like trying to sort of define their sound, and they're just like, oh, we're just hard rock, And it's true, they're just a good hard rock band. It's just a bit of a shame, really. They didn't. I guess they were put in the hair metal category, and then so chances of success were probably not that strong when you had that sort of label on you. But my favorite song is "Cry Yourself to Sleep." I think it's a brilliant song. But the music videos are "Hang Me Up" and "Blue Tomorrow." So, and they're really cool music videos as well. Good songs. Just didn't happen. 1992, of course, as well. They did tour with, they had some good tours as well, I think, supporting the album. But actually, if you are interested, I'm not counting this. They are still one and done, but there is an album that's just come out this year called The Vault, and you can even get it on vinyl. I haven't picked it up myself yet, but it's called The Vault, and it's got songs that they recorded prior to this album, and I think maybe even after this album as well. Probably, maybe, I don't know, but there's some they're potential songs for an album. They're really well produced though. They sound really good. Heard it online, so yeah, The Vault is worth checking out if you want some more War Babies. And I think there's maybe one song from the album on it, but otherwise everything else I think is all different, new songs or songs that you wouldn't have heard if you heard this. So worth checking out. So War Babies. Next one, Voodoo X. So this is the album by, basically the band fronted by Gina Beauvoir. He's of course known as a solo artist. He'd also been in the Plasmatics, and he then after this he goes on to form the band Crown of Thorns, which is a pretty good hard rock band as well. But yeah, this is coming out around 1990, I think, produced by Max Norman. He's one of my favorite producers. Not super heavy, but it's again it's that hair metal type sound, quite commercial. They definitely look at the back. You probably can't really see them as black and white sort of photo there, but yeah, image-wise, they definitely fit there. I mean, Gene and Plasmatics was more sort of punk rock kind of sound, and then when he did his solo albums, it was more pop rock really. But so yeah, it definitely catches on with the hair metal sound for this album. And even when he gets into Crown of Thorns and some of his other solo work that he's done, it's more a hard rock type of sound. It's pretty good actually. He's got a song on here. It's my favorite song would be where is it? Lover Like You. It's really good. I like that song. I think it was written with Paul Stanley. It's the co-write with Paul Stanley on that one. That's a good song. I think Voodoo Queen was the single, but yeah, Voodoo X and Volume 1, The Awakening. But it's one and done. There was no Volume 2. That I know of anyway. All right, and another female fronted one I haven't mentioned. And I did want to mention this. This is Bad Romance, and I've mentioned this album and band before, but Joanna Dean is the vocalist, and I'm saying it's one and done. Now, she did prior to this album, she had a solo album out just called Joanna Dean, and it's almost the same lineup that recorded this album. They just decided let's just give her a band name instead. And they've got Tom Kiefer from Cinderella duetting with her on Love Hurts, which is great, So had some potential. This was 1991, but for whatever reason, no vinyl issued for this. And I think one of the singles was The House of My Father, which is a really good song. Really like that one. And yeah, they were, had some quite mature lyrics. It's female fronted as well. So, yeah, it could have been successful. I'm not quite sure really why it didn't catch on. I mean, 91 again, it's the timing, but it's really good, worth checking out. So mention that one, and yeah, and then finally, I'm just going to mention this one because it was put in the comments. I don't really think they quite fit the category of hair metal, but it is 84, and they have a sound that you could imagine a hair metal band sort of having, but it's HSAS, which is the initials of the four guys in the band. Neil Schon and Sammy Hagar, I guess the most well known of the two. And yeah, Through the Fire, which is basically, supposedly anyway, a live recording. But I think it's a live recording over more than one night, and there possibly is some studio stuff happening. But I don't, I'm not too sure exactly. But Top of the Rock, what a great song that is. But yeah, like I said, I wouldn't necessarily say this is hair metal. I mean, they don't really have the look. The sounds pretty, could be, like I said, if a hair metal band put an album that sounded like this out, yeah, typical. But yeah, so it's good hard rock though, basically good hard rock. I want to mention it, and of course, if I'm going to show that, I also have to mention friend of the show, Tim Derling, and his book Red on Black, which talks about that album. So if you're interested in knowing more about that album or more about Sammy Hagar, make sure you check this book out. It's really good. All right, and I think that'll do it for today. So there we go. More one and done hair metal albums by hair metal bands. Please give me some more suggestions in the comments. It really worked last time. There were lots that I'd forgotten about, so I really appreciate that. And if you haven't, it's been good to see the subscriptions going up. So please subscribe if you have not yet done it, if you enjoy this type of content. And yeah, that's it for this week. We'll catch you next week. All right, see ya.